Hello everyone, this is Sheila back with a small tutorial. This is a cardigan I am busy sewing up. I have left just one seam here which I'm going to show how I sew my seams. I have been asked so many times in comments, emails, how do I sew my seams, raglan seams, and how do I make them so neat? Very simple. So I'm going to show you, like I said, I've left one seam here where I'm going to show you how I sew this seam. I've already pinned it. I'll do it a bit closer here so you can see better. This seam here, I have pinned it, and when I do raglans I flat seam them. I don't over sew them, I flat seam them. To over sew them, you would have them pinned like that and you would go over like that, but I don't do that. I flat stitch them, which means I keep the two seams flat together like that. I bring them together and I take the needle from one side to the other, which I will show now. As you can see, the two pieces are flat together, and I go through. If you look on the edge of your sewing, you'll find it's like a small notch where the end of the row, when you've knitted, you put your needle through that notch, find the notch on the other side, and just go through them and just flat stitch them. Do not pull the stitch tight when you do it. If you pull the stitch tight, you will gather the seam. The seam will be shorter than it should be. So just loosely sew from one side to the other like that. It's like a little knot. The little notch is like a little knot on the end where you finish the row off and turn around to do the next row. I'll take that pin out now because I'm getting down there a bit. And there's the two notches together. You can see I'm putting them together there. Through one side and the other. Just gently pull the stitch, but not tight. My mother taught me how to sew like this. My mother was a tailoress. She worked in Isaac Walton's in Newcastle. She did alterations to men's suits and ladies, things to do with ladies as well, I think. It was my father that taught me to knit, but my mother taught me to sew, and she was very good at what she did, and she made sure I knew how to sew properly. That's what she used to say: if you're going to do a job, do it properly. So that's just one notch through to the other notch. Pull it through gently. A lot of people are lovely knitters, but they don't know how to sew, and sometimes their sewing up spoils the garment they've made. Pull the next pin out. And I don't know why, but when you sew, the wool keeps curling around. I have to keep straightening up every so often, or you get like a little knot that won't go through the where you're sewing it. And when I finish this seam, I will show you how I do up the side seams. And I'd already stitched most of this. I just left one seam for the show the tutorial. It's almost finished. As you can see, it's just flat stitched, and the stitches are loose but not open. And sometimes when you get to the end, come to the cast off stitches, sometimes the notches don't match up. So you just go through the one you did before on one side. Now I'm coming to the cast off stitches down the bottom here. This is the only part that I over sew. I'll cut that last stitch through the notches. And because the cast off stitches are quite thick, I like to go through both sides of the stitch. So I over sew. That's the only part I over sew on the raglan. Oops, my needle thread's coming out of my needle. And that's how you over sew. You hold the pieces together like that. That's that. And now to tie off, I go through once, wrap the wool around the needle, pull it up, go through twice, wrap the wool around the needle, pull it up 3 times, wrapping the wool around the needle, and that's that seam done. Down. And now I'll show you all these seams now, what they look like. Going down a bit. And that's how the raglans look if you sew them properly. There's no tightness, and when you pull them there is a little bit give. That's what you want. If they were pulled up tight, you know, the stitches were pulled up tight, there would be no give in it. A little bit give there, a little bit give there, and a little bit give there. So that's the 4 raglan seams. Now I will show you how to do the back stitch for the sides and the sleeves. This was a little short sleeve cardigan. I intended doing a long sleeve one, but I picked out the wrong size and didn't have enough yarn left. So when you do the sides and the sleeves, I start with the just pin just a little bit way past the rib, and I flat stitch the rib. I blow that up again. I need to thread my needle. And to do the rib part, you do the same as the raglans. You flat stitch them together. So you just hold the 2 pieces together. You start off one side, put it in one side, and just match. When you do the rib part, you can see that is the whole stitch all the way down there. Don't take the very end of it here. Take it the little bit further in there, and go to the little notch like you did on the raglan seam on the other side. And when you take this part of the stitch, you make like an overlap on the other side. I'll show you when I've done a little bit of this stitch. I have to go in a little bit. There's a big loose stitch there. I think that's the end of the the rib. When you turn that over, you see your rib where you took one part of that stitch there. This is the side that you didn't stitch. That is the side you stitched there, and it overlaps and makes a neater seam. I hope I've explained that very well. So now we're going to do the actual seam, and I'm going to pin that from the armhole down. Oh, we'll join some wool on here. I'll have to cut that off. Leave just little bits for to oversew the top of it. Another pin in. Take that pin out from there. Pin that bit. Now we're going to do a back stitch for the seam. So you have your two pieces together like that, like you would oversew, but you're back stitching, not oversewing. And you bring the needle through, and then you go back. That's where that stitch came out here. The stitch came out there. You're going to go behind it and come out in front. So your stitch is there and you've come out a little way in front of it. So you go back behind your stitch, come out in the front. And sew as close to the edge as possible so you don't get a big seam. You don't want a big bulky seam, you just want it as fine as possible. So go behind your stitch and come out a little way in front. Behind the stitch and a little way in front. I take that pin out. And that is how you backstitch the seams on a cardigan. You could do with a sharper needle. These thicker needles do not have very sharp points. I'll have to hunt around for some. It's hard to get through the wool sometimes. And that is how you backstitch, and I will keep on until I finish, and I'll come back and show you the finished result. And this is one stitch that you're doing that you do pull tight when you're doing it. You go through behind, pull out the front and pull the stitch tight, because you do want this seam tight. Pull it tight like that. It doesn't gather the seam up like it would on the raglan. And this is the last seam, and now I'm going to show you. I've come to the end of it, so I'm going to put my needle through to the other side, turn it over, and you can see the stitches down that side, that where it's been coming through on the other side. This is how I finish off. I go through one of the stitches, loop the needle back through that stitch, pull it tight, go through another stitch, pull it tight through the loop and pull it tight, and for a third time. Only when I go through the last one, don't go through the whole stitch like that. Go halfway through the actual wool itself and pull it out. And doing that will stop that ever coming out without having to cut it off, which is why I have an awful job if I have to come to unpick anything with my scissors. And then just cut the little bit wool off, and then turn it the right way. Now you have to straighten out the seams, take the bulk out of the seams. And then you just have ends. I open down a bit. I leave these long ends for stitching on the buttons. I take the long end through to the other side and bring it out where the first button goes to stitch the button on. That one will be stitched off because it's part of the buttonhole side. The only time I might press anything is on a V-neck like this, if it sort of doesn't lie right. I put a cloth tea towel over and I just press it. Just the actual seam part of the thingy down here, not the whole cardigan. I never press anything otherwise. So that cardigan just needs the buttons on now. And I have marked where I'm going to put the buttons. I put the two bands together, and it's quite easy. You just follow I'll blow it up so you can see better. Oops, there's a button on the floor. I don't want to lose that. You go from where the buttonhole there is. I've matched the two bands together from where the buttonholes start and where they finish up there. And that buttonhole is where that bit of rib is there. So I put the pin in the same rib there, and the same on that side. You just match the two places together where the buttonhole is, the rib stitch. That one, it's in the same place there, and that one on the same place there, and that keeps your rib straight and in the right place. Otherwise, if you have the buttonholes in the wrong place or the buttons in the wrong place, you end up with your band something like this. If you have them in the wrong place, you can see the top of the band would end up like that. I'll blow it down again. There, that's what happens if you have the buttons in the wrong place. So you need them in the right place to match up on either side. And I will show how I put the buttons on now, and I need a thinner needle for that. Where's my thin needle here? That one? Yes, it's that one. The buttons off. I've chose peach buttons. Couldn't make my mind up whether to do lemon, white or peach, but I chose peach. So you take this is what I do with one of the long ends here. I have trouble threading this because it's got a finer hole, but hopefully all the wool will come through. That's it. And that is the stitch place there. Blow that up so you can see better. So I'm going to take the wool from the side that's where it came from. As you can see, the bit of the pin through the there. Take it to where that stitch is. And you're not going all the way through the stitch, you're just going to the stitch on that surface and then just sort of knot it so it doesn't pull through. Take the pin out, bring your needle through on the other side. Okay, so I've taken that from that seam, I've stitched it down there, came across there and brought it through the other side. Then you go and then just stitch the button on. I go 3 times through the button, and I've caught that wool in on the other side. I'll have to pull it out. And then just wrap the wool around the needle, pull it tight, do that 3 times. That's 3 times, and that's 1 button on. Now, fasten that button on there, go on to the next one. I still have some wool left on the needle. Take the needle out, pin out, sorry. That's 1, 2, the last button. I'm sorry if I move out the camera sometime, but the camera is actually above me and I can't see what I'm doing on the camera. I have to stand on my tiptoes to be able to see the camera. I try to keep my hands in the right place. That's twice. Putting the kitten through that. Oh, there it is. So that's 3 times into the button. On the other side. That's once, twice, 3 times to secure it on the other side. That's 4 buttons. Now to get rid of these ends on the other side. What do I do with my needle? There it is. It's very hard threading a needle through these thinner needles. I should have one of those little metal things where you push the wire through. I've got one somewhere, but where it is. So now I'm going to just over sew this bottom bit here just to get rid of this yarn. I take it through to where the band was knitted onto the side piece. So I go over there, just go through it once to knot it, and then just slot the needle through the stitches to hide it. It's gone into a knot there. And then cut it off. And that's hidden in the stitches. Now I've got the needle in my mouth here. The same with the other side. Pull it tight to pull any loose stitch in. And then just over sew a couple of times on the seam where the band joined the cardigan, and just go through it, not through the whole bit of wool, but through the middle of the yarn. That stops it coming out, and then just slot through the part of the band seam. Cut that off, and that is all the buttons sewn on and all the ends. I'll go back down again, and that is how you sew up a raglan cardigan, raglan seams, backstitch sides, and sew the buttons on. And that little cardigan will be on my eBay shop later on today. I'm selling that for £10. I normally sell this size for £12, but because it's got short sleeves, it's going for £10. So if anyone's interested, you look on my eBay shop and you will find it later on today. So give a thumbs up and subscribe if you would like to see more sometime. So bye for now.